Teresina Niles, could you tell us about Madeline?
Yes. Maddie was the light of my sister Tatiana and my brother-in-law Tyler's eyes. She wasn't their entire world. Their love for her definitely seeped into the rest of us and the family, and we just had this hope and prayer that one day we would be able to have more time with her, spend more time with her, watch her, go through the milestones and make memories as a family. But we weren't given that opportunity. So a lot of it was from watching afar. And when they did get, a chance to have her and be with her, they spent every moment like cherishing it. So it was this is all very difficult to understand, especially finding out in real time as well with the rest of the world, the nightmares she was living through and went through. And it's just been incomprehensible for us.
To Teresina Niles, this is Maddie's aunt on the dad's side. Teresina, do you know whether the bio dad has confronted Maddie's mother?
Confronted her in the past about other things, or?
Well, yes, that's a good start. Thank you. Did he ever confront her about the living situation with the boyfriend?
No, I don't think a lot of us were aware of any of that.
So that was hidden from the bio dad. Has he tried to get in touch with the mom since her body was discovered?
Everything has gone through the correct actions to communicate with the liaisons that they have in place.
I'm worried that Maddie's dad is blaming himself, and he should not. Is he? Because that's a very normal reaction.
And to many degrees, for sure, with my brother-in-law and my sister and just the rest of the family in general. It's hard not to. There was no signs, but it's looking back, you just, what if we could have done, or what if we would have known? And it's really hard not to live in that and see them going through it. So it's definitely been a challenge.
I just want to dig into this Nancy Grace interview a little bit with Teresina Niles. So Teresina Niles is the aunt, or do you say aunt or auntie, of Madeline Soto. Okay, so Maddie Soto, her biological mom, is Jennifer Soto. A lot of people are mad at her now, of course. And Jennifer Soto's boyfriend is Stephan Sterns. He's currently in jail, facing charges of her murder and other many heinous, horrible charges. So Teresina spoke to Nancy Grace. Now Teresina, her brother is Tyler Wallace. Tyler Wallace is Maddie's biological dad. There's a lot of backlash. There's so much reading in between the lines. This story is becoming clearer, this whole dramatic situation. It's confusing. Jennifer has been married, not to Maddie's bio dad. She was married to a different man, and she wasn't married to Stephan Sterns. So it gets confusing because people are assuming Jennifer's ex-husband is Tyler, and that's not true. But let's dig into what I've been able to glean from this Nancy Grace interview. You can listen to the whole audio right now. It's down below. The link is down below, where Nancy talks to Teresina and different experts. That whole thing is almost an hour long, but Nancy has put about 5 minutes of the visuals thus far on YouTube, so I've linked to that too. So let's dig into Teresina's words, what she's saying between the lines, some of the horrible backlash she's getting, unfairly, I believe. I mean, this family is suffering. And let's go a bit more into what I found. We've talked about it before slightly, but now that Tyler and his wife have spoken out, as well as her sister, I feel more comfortable saying their names. But let's talk about what Jennifer went through with Tyler when Maddie was just a little baby, through the court systems, in terms of like DNA and child support and all that stuff. And the picture it paints as to how this crime might have happened. I keep asking myself, did Jennifer keep Maddie away from her bio dad. And it seems like Teresina, if you read between her lines, that's why I like transcribing what they're saying, it sounds like that's what she's getting at. So Nancy is asking her to tell us about Madeline, and she's saying, of course, she was the light of, her bio dad and her stepmom's eyes. Their love for her definitely just seeped into the rest of us in the family. Then she said, we just had this hope and prayer that one day we would be able to have more time with her, spend more time basically with Maddie. She wanted to watch Maddie be able to grow up and go through the milestones. I'm sure she expected to watch her go off to high school, graduate high school, maybe go to college, maybe get married, maybe become a mom herself one day. You kind of take for granted all the young people in your life are just going to do that, and you get to watch and make memories as a family, she said. But we weren't given that opportunity. So a lot of it was watching afar. So she's not necessarily talking about the murder yet at this point. She's saying we didn't see the milestones basically, or really get to make memories as a family because we were watching from afar. So we know Maddie's bio dad and her stepmom live in Texas somewhere. It was a pretty far drive that, he drove all the way as soon as he heard Maddie was missing.
Tell me about your daughter.
Maddie was just the most important person to my wife and I. She was just full of joy.
Tyler Wallace had last spoken to his daughter on her birthday. He had no idea it would be the last time.
How did you find out?
I was informed through a phone call from Jennifer that she was missing.
What was her demeanor?
Jennifer's?
Was she calm? Was she freaking out?
I would say anxious.
The next morning, he got in his car and drove from Texas to Florida, only stopping for gas. But shortly after he got here, Madeline Soto's body was found in this rural area of Osceola County. Her mother's boyfriend, Stephan Sterns, is charged with sexual battery and possession of child sex abuse material. He is the main suspect in her murder after investigators say Sterns is on video dumping her backpack and laptop in a dumpster in the early morning hours of the day Maddie was reported missing.
Did your daughter ever indicate that something was going on in that house?
Not to me, no.
What did you think of Stephan Sterns?
I had interacted with him on Instagram a couple of times loosely, just kind of seeing if he gave me the ick or if he seemed okay. And as far as I was interpreting his demeanor, he seemed like a warm, interested, but not responsive very often person.
What do you think of him now?
I don't want to say that on camera. I can't communicate to you. Every father knows what I'm thinking right now.
Tyler met with Kissimmee police about their ongoing investigation.
But do you think that Jennifer Soto knows more?
I don't know, and I am interested in knowing, but I don't have reason to believe one way or the other right now. These are the things that the investigators are looking into.
And now, he won't get that chance. Instead, he's here to take the little girl's ashes home to be with him now.
Was Jen a good mother?
I don't know how I can excuse this. I don't know how I can excuse this. I don't know the whole truth, though. I need to hear more. I need to hear more to answer that question.
Shannon Butler, WFTV Tonight.
But the way she phrases it, we weren't given that opportunity. That leads me to believe that I think Maddie was kept away. You know how some people kind of play keep away with their kids. Oh, you're not going to go get to see your real dad for whatever reason if the mom is mad at the dad. So this case, which I'm just really so obsessed with Maddie getting her justice and seeing it through, I think it can be a learning lesson, as Teresina's going to talk about, or Nancy Grace will talk about too, and what will be the lessons for other parents to avoid such a tragedy. But Teresina said when they did get a chance to have her and be with Maddie, they spent every moment cherishing it. It almost sounds like, maybe Maddie was allowed, okay, here you go, you're allowed to go spend this time with your dad. Maybe when Jennifer got tired of her own daughter or something, I don't know. Teresina said it was very difficult. This is all difficult to understand. And now that they are especially finding out in real time, unfortunately, with the rest of the world, child this nightmare that Maddie was living through and went through, and it's been incomprehensible to us, she said. So Teresina, yes, is indeed Maddie's aunt on the dad's side, and some people are coming, I'm reading wild comments that some people, of course, have a lot of grace for her and Tyler and Tatiana, and other people just rant and they say, okay, everybody failed Maddie, but as Teresina's going to go through, she's going to say not everyone knew. There weren't signs. Not to blame Maddie, of course, at all, but Maddie didn't necessarily tell anyone. There was no specific outcry. For example, it sounds like that Maddie made to her own bio dad or her stepmom. Maybe she just felt a lot more comfortable when she was with them, and maybe it was just that chance to relax and breathe and know you're not going to be harmed. But as far as saying, Stephan Sterns is doing this to me and making me film these horrible videos, and he's been doing it, as young as I can remember, since I was 8 years old, and I don't think any kind of outcry happened. But she said something interesting too when Nancy asked, Teresina, do you know whether the bio dad has confronted Maddie's mother? And she answered, confronted her in the past about other things, or? So I found that pretty interesting. Obviously that lends itself to a lot of turmoil must have been happening between these parents as they try to co-parent. Nancy just said, well, yes, that's a good start. Did he ever confront her about the living situation with the boyfriend? And that's when Teresina said, no, I don't think a lot of us were aware of any of that. Nancy says, yeah, it was hidden even from the bio dad. But has Tyler tried to get in touch with Jen since Maddie's body was discovered? And Teresina just said everything's gone through the correct actions to communicate with the liaisons they have in place. Like, we know Tyler, through his lawyer, got Maddie's ashes, at least part of them or all of them, I don't know, from Jen Soto. Nancy was worried that Maddie's dad is blaming himself, and she said he should not. And is he? Because that's a normal reaction. Teresina answered, to many degrees for sure, with my brother-in-law and with my sister, the rest of the family in general. It's hard not to play that what if game. Even though there were no signs, she's saying like they still play the what if game. What if we could have done something, or what if we would have known? It's really hard not to live in that space and to see Maddie's bio dad, Tyler, and Tatiana going through that. It's definitely been a challenge. I can't imagine. The things that really bother Teresina, though, something about the timeline of the case. Maybe she didn't expound upon a lot of things. Of course, you're limited in time, but I don't know if she meant the timeline of the case by learning that Stephan Sterns had been doing these horrible things to Maddie since she was an 8-year-old. Maybe that's what she meant by the timeline. A lot of her family, Teresina's family, she said they have not read through the documents. I can imagine how difficult that would be. Nearly 900 pages released so far, and you guys might have watched my previous video. From the state's attorney's office, the records manager told me there are actually 1,500 pages thus far. That's about as huge as the Chris Watts discovery. Lord knows how much bigger this discovery will get, and we don't know when they'll be able to release more. We'll just see. But I can't imagine being a family member reading through all these horrific, nightmarish things about someone I loved. So Teresina has seen a lot of the documents, on social media and the description of how Maddie was found. Nancy Grace reiterated, did, Maddie never say a word to her dad about it? And Teresina said no.
Which aspect of the new information just released is the most concerning to you?
I think the biggest aspect has been the timelines that, we weren't, you're ready to hear, but you're never ready to hear. And so seeing those kind of lay out and essentially a lot of my family and I, we haven't read through the documents, but I have seen quite a bit from social media, and it's just devastating. And, the description of how she was found and just things of that nature, you're never ready to hear something like that, especially when it's somebody that you've watched grow up and.
And I bet anything she never said a word to her dad about it.
No, we wouldn't be, like, none of this would have happened if we even had an inkling. So it's I think that was another, thing from the the documents, once we saw how many other of her friends and people didn't know either, and we're just, it doesn't take the pain away or the guilt that's there, but it does show that like nobody knew that closest to her, and it really is devastating, other than the people that did know, I guess.
Miss Niles, did you guys have any idea that the mother was just basically sending Maddie off to sleep with the boyfriend at night?
Not at all. Not at all. So all of this is news.
How is Maddie's dad reacting to all this? He must be devastated.
It's been difficult to just see my brother-in-law Tyler and my sister Tatiana just go through any of this, just because they loved her so deeply, and it's incomprehensible. I truly can't even find the words to convey the devastation that I'm witnessing and seeing and reading. It just makes everyone really sick, really, really, really sick.
Teresina Niles, this is Maddie's aunt. Teresina, what is your message to parents listening tonight?
When Maddie passed away, at the funeral, we all went as a family and promised her that she didn't die in vain, and I wanted to work really hard in ensuring that, with taking care of being strong for my family and also being strong for her. I know that since this has all started and happened, I've worked with many advocates that are local in Florida, and they've really helped kind of bring all these communities that have reached out to my family and I, supporting us during all of this. And it's solely on Maddie's behalf, and it hasn't gone unnoticed for sure.
None of this would have happened if we had an inkling. From the documents, they also see how many other people didn't know. Nobody knew closest to her other than the people that did know, she said. So it's interesting, she said other than the people who did know, as opposed to other than the person who did know. I wonder if she thinks Jennifer indeed knew everything. I don't know. But Nancy again asked, did Tyler have any idea that Jennifer was just sending their daughter Maddie off to sleep with Sterns at night? And no, not at all. Tatiana and Tyler loved her so deeply. I see what Teresina means about, if we had an inkling that something was wrong, I'm sure they would have moved heaven and earth to just keep Maddie there. For example, if Maddie did make an outcry, if Maddie was in Texas spending time with her bio dad and her stepmom, because they take photos together. I know they had seen each other, I guess, last in October of 2023, I believe it was.
I love what I had of her, but we were supposed to have so much more.
Today, only Channel 9's investigative reporter Shannon Butler sat down with Madeline's father as well as her stepmother and grandmother. She's live now in the studio, and Shannon, certainly an emotional interview.
Yeah, it was a difficult interview for him, but he wanted people to know about his daughter and even their sometimes complicated relationship. There's so much more to that interview. We sat with that family for about 90 minutes today. They are in town not only to try to get those ashes, but there is a community vigil tomorrow that they are planning on attending. They just couldn't believe how much community support they did receive.
You asked the questions that so many are asking, and this is another question.
I can't wait to see the rest of that interview. Great reporting there, incredible insight from, Maddie's biological father.
Wow, what a story. All right.
And, obviously they did some things together, but if they had had any inkling, if they had learned something was really wrong, I'm sure they would have tried to gather all the proof they could against Sterns to not have to even send Maddie back anywhere near him and have him arrested a lot earlier and prevent, of course, this horrible death. Nancy asked Teresina about a message to any of the parents listening. I like that Teresina said, at the funeral, we all went as a family and they promised Maddie that she didn't die in vain. Ooh, I think that's also the lesson of this case. It's like, why did Maddie have to suffer so much? She can become sort of a symbol, an emblem not for what she suffered, but for helping others recognize all the signs of an abuser in the home. And if Jennifer didn't recognize the signs of the abuser in the home, or if there's any mother out there acting like she's acting now, maybe this will say, hey, I better stop this. I better stop being so trusting. I better, not keep my child away from her bio dad as long as her bio dad is treating her correctly, is treating her nicely and kindly, or all the lessons. Or if Jennifer did know what was happening, it can be a lesson to others surrounding them, saying, okay, wait, that's weird. This guy is telling me stuff, or this mom is saying something weird, or I'm noticing that the 13-year-old is going off to sleep with the 38-year-old and the mom is okay with them going in that other room. Maybe I should just put in a little anonymous report. Let me just keep reporting it. If I'm afraid to put it in, under my name, or maybe I can secretly somehow tell someone in order to deliver this child out of this madness. Now, Maddie being abused from the age of 8 to the age of 13, over the 5 years, there might have been people who not necessarily knew the abuse was happening, but found just some weird stuff going on, and maybe they were just too afraid to say anything, and that can help other people. But I took a little dive back into that nearly 900-page document, and I was looking for all the instances of dad and father to see how I could relate it to this video, to paint a complete picture of what was going on here. Now, page 31, Stephan stated that Maddie called him her bonus dad. Maddie then sang for him, and it reminded him of Sister Act. Well, that term bonus dad came about in a good way initially. Well, at least I thought it was. Initially, I remember hearing Jada Pinkett Smith when she married Will Smith and he already had his young son, Trey. And instead of calling herself like, oh, that's my stepson, or I'm his stepmom, she would say, that's my bonus son. It makes it sound a bit more positive, but I don't know. In this instance, Stephan is pumping himself up and saying, Maddie called me her bonus dad, a title he did not deserve in any way. Now, page 33, Stephan stated he was like a stepfather to Maddie, and she thinks of him as a dad. So no wonder the cops and so many investigators included that wording in their reports, because it's Stephan who keeps saying it. He's like a stepfather to Maddie. She thinks of him as a dad. Well, she also told a counselor she thinks of him as a weirdo, a layabout who eats all their food, and made her uncomfortable. Well, page 107, there was an interview with a friend, and the friend further stated that Maddie only mentioned her biological father briefly, but said she was always on a call with her stepdad, Stephan. There's another part where she's not talking about Tyler that much, and she's always on a call with her stepdad, Stephan. Like the way Stephan weaseled himself into their lives, it's almost like the perfect horrible storm of a woman with low self-esteem and problems and looking for a man, obviously. And this woman happens to have this young daughter. The dad is not in their lives, and why? I don't know, but Stephan obviously easily used it to snake his way into their lives and try and take the place of, I'm the stepdad, Maddie thinks of me as that stepdad, and I'm in constant communication with her, grooming her and confusing her as to what love truly means. Page 113, a friend being interviewed also stated that Maddie's mother threatened to kick her out. And this has got to be heartbreaking, but it says additionally, and it looks like it's the word Maddie, even though things are redacted, Maddie did not like her father. Now, if that's true, I hope they delve more into that, of course, as this case goes on. Why? Maddie looks like she has such love for her dad. I'm not sure why that was being said. Did she feel abandoned by her dad? And was it really because she was being kept away from him? We know these situations can get really confusing. On page 872, there's an interview, I believe it was with Jennifer, on February 27, 2024, because it has all these claims that Maddie had such a good time and was happy from her birthday party and all that, which we know wasn't really true. The last time Maddie was in trouble was weeks prior to this incident. So, weeks prior to Maddie still missing at this point. The last time she was in trouble was weeks prior, but Jen does not remember the exact reason why. So much stuff she can't remember. When Jen went through Maddie's phone, she found texts stating when she turned 18, she was going to leave and that her mom was acting crazy and that her mom was going to send Maddie to her father's home. It says Maddie's bio father, it's redacted, and then it says, and although the two communicate sometimes by phone, they do not frequently see each other, and he is not very involved in her life. Let me tell you what my mind has filled in from looking at these court documents about the situation. Now, I don't know when Jennifer and Tyler would have hooked up. I don't know the history. I don't know any of that stuff. But I do see that a paternity DOR case was filed on June 3rd, 2011. This was less than 4 months after Maddie was born on February 22nd, 2011. So Jennifer Soto was the petitioner and Tyler J. Wallace was the respondent in that case. So already, I don't know if it was just like a brief hookup, if they were boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever, but obviously Jennifer got pregnant by Tyler. And 4 months after Maddie was born, she's taken him to court, so there must have been some kind of issue there. She wanted to find out the paternity. So a summons was issued on June 3rd, and the custody issues seemed to begin when Maddie was just a little baby. Now, these non-public court documents only allow us to be privy to their descriptions and not the actual contents. There was a petition, a financial affidavit, a civil cover sheet, a request for admissions, a certificate of compliance. All that happened on June 3rd. Maddie was just a baby. Jennifer has this lawyer. She's obviously fighting, I guess, to get Tyler to recognize paternity and to get money out of him. There was a summons returned by July 14, affidavits of service, summons, letters. There was finally a hearing nearly on Maddie's birthday, nearly when she was a 1-year-old. So this was February 16, 2012. They finally get their day in court. It's been a whole year later. There's a hearing, there's court minutes, there's exhibits, there's a report, recommendation, hearing, and order, evidence control sheet the next day, and then finally, by February 27th, 2012, there's an order for income deduction, and there's a final judgment. So Maddie's over a year now, and we can't see what this order for income deduction was, but it was obviously Jennifer taking Tyler to court to recognize that he is Maddie's bio dad. I just feel like when there's a situation like this, all this ire might be against the bio dad. Maybe Jennifer felt angry that she had to go through these means to get him to pay support. Well, by April 9th, 2012, there was a certified notice of delinquent support, and by June of that same year, there was an alias summons returned unserved, and there was a certificate of delinquency recorded. Stuff happens, believe me, I know it. Considering how much money I owe the IRS right now, I'm paying them off, and I'm not making any excuses for any person who is behind on their child support payments. I'm just trying to say, I know what it's like to, work hard and try and meet your obligations and pay. We don't know the story behind any of this stuff. Nearly every year after that, 2013, 2014, 2017, and then 2020, and now 2024, there have been Department of Revenue intercept credits. And I can put all these dates below for the people who like to read that. And it's so ironic. As late as March 13th, 2024, there was a Department of Revenue intercept credit that can be seen. This is all public record on the Orange County Clerk's website. So what does that Department of Revenue intercept credit mean? It's an interagency intercept occurs when a program receives a request from one of the participating agencies to intercept tax refunds, lottery winnings, unclaimed property payments from individuals or business entities who owe delinquent amounts. So it can happen, wages can get garnished, but my point is just to say, not to victimize any victims. I truly believe Maddie's dad, after watching his interviews, I believe it was WFTV, oh my goodness, I've been waiting for more of them. He was genuinely upset. He didn't have any inkling about Sterns being a creep. He talked about checking him out a little bit, maybe on Instagram, and maybe he thought he was an okay guy. They hadn't really gotten deep into any type of discussions. He said, every father knows what I'm thinking. If Tyler had really known just how deeply intertwined and exposed in everything Jennifer was with Stephan, and basically, as people say, handing Maddie off to him on a silver platter, I'm sure Tyler would have interrupted things. I know there are plenty of cases where a mom and a dad not getting along can treat their children like pawns, and I can't help but wonder if that's what Jennifer did to Tyler out of spite. They got pregnant. There was obviously some type of, custody issue. It was something that had to be worked out through the courts. It wasn't something that could have been done behind the scenes. That's why we have these public records. And of course, Tyler went off and married Tatiana. I'm sure that's who he chose to marry as opposed to Jennifer. And I'm wondering, all these years, these 13 years, did Jennifer hold it over his head? Did she kind of play keep away with Maddie all these years by only letting her visit her bio dad and stepmom only sometimes? It feels like that's what's being alluded to. Once we get deeper, and I'm sure once we see more interviews, once we see more raw body cam interviews, interrogations, and everyone spilling the beans, we'll get to see what happened here. And that can be a lesson to me for any parent, even if it's a rocky start in terms of co-parenting or whoever you feel is not doing what. No child should be kept away from a person out of spite. If a person is harmful, of course they should be kept away from that parent or boyfriend. Isn't it ironic? If Jennifer did keep Maddie away from Tyler out of spite, out of anger, out of jealousy of his wife or whatever was going on there, that's totally wrong. And how ironic that situation would be if she kept Maddie away from them in Texas, but just freely let Maddie, go on up there, go sleep in the bedroom with Stephan, this horrible, evil person. The irony in that is something that I just can't get over. Let's close with Joel 2:12. Even now, says the Lord, turn and come to me with all your heart in genuine repentance, with fasting and weeping and mourning, until every barrier is removed and the broken fellowship is restored. So I keep FOIA-ing and FOIA-ing. I'm looking through stuff I may not have requested. I just got to know more about Jennifer Soto. I was looking through her old traffic tickets and seeing when she still lived at her mom's house, and which year did she move into the condo, and I want to know more about her having a baby with Tyler and the inner workings of her mind, and was she really pissed off that he married someone else, and did she nurse a grudge, and did she keep Maddie away from him? And then when she married her ex-husband, whose name is Stephen, that was pretty short-lived. What the heck went wrong there? I know relationships don't work out, so this is not me coming down on Jennifer or judging her too harshly. I just want to know what happened. What's the human psychology of it? So that broke up, and then she just met Stephan, this horrible man, and did she just see through or look past all the red flags that he brought with him just to be with a man and just to have him? And now Maddie's gone as a result of him. And it's weird, some of the backlash that Teresina is getting. And also I'm wondering, is that why the interviews from WFTV never completely aired? Remember, we kept looking and looking and looking and waiting. I know reporter Shannon Butler, she's great. She spoke about having 90 minutes worth of footage, interview footage between with Tyler, his wife Tatiana, Maddie's grandma, who we haven't seen on that side, which would have been Tyler's bio mom, I assume. There were all these interviews coming. We only got to see certain snippets of Tyler talking about, every dad knows what I'm thinking, and even Tyler wants to know more about the situation Maddie was going through. There's so much he didn't know. But we never got to hear Tatiana's portion or the grandmother's portion. I'm wondering, is it because they were getting backlash? I know Teresina is getting backlash. I can't believe some of the comments I read. Some people, they would never say these things to a person's face. But I'm reading comments like, where's she coming from? She's just the sister-in-law. She's just Tatiana's sister. She's Tyler's sister-in-law. She's not even like Tyler's sister. And that doesn't mean she didn't love Maddie. I don't know how much time she got to spend around Maddie. I saw when Maddie went missing, she was putting out a lot on Facebook. And it doesn't mean she didn't have love for the girl. Some people are just saying, she wants her 15 minutes of fame, and they all failed Maddie, and I don't really know. I'm just trying to look deeper into the situation, because from the words that are kind of being said, it kind of sounds like there's a much deeper story. And I hope the rest of those interviews are aired. I don't know who put the kibosh on that. I don't think I missed them because I was looking and looking and looking and looking so long at WFTV News, as I still get their alerts coming through right now from their app. I love their app. I kept looking to see where's the rest of the interviews. If I can find any more new stuff, I will put it in here somewhere. Something weird is going on. Maybe they didn't want to experience the backlash that Teresina is getting now, where people they get so angry. And I get it. Some people get so angry at what happened to a child. They just rail against everyone. You know, they might rail against reporters and YouTubers and the entire family without us really knowing who exactly failed Maddie. We know Stephan Sterns did. A lot of people believe Jennifer Soto did, but I want to know more about why and how, any parent, if they're recognizing the same type of ire against their own child, if they're looking at their child like, oh, you remind me of your father and just get out of here, and almost as if it were punishment, she's saying, I'm going to send you off to live with your father. Well, yeah, that would have been fine. You don't do it out of anger. You do it because you care as a co-parent. Let me give you your equal amount of time. I could go on, and all the child support issues. I don't know what that's about. Sometimes money is tight. Who knows? It's sad it couldn't have worked out. It's sad Maddie could not have been rescued. I guess that's my ultimate point. Again, I'm covering this case, many other cases. I'm putting still a lot of FOIA requests in. We'll see what we get. I doubt that Sterns' trial will happen next month. Either one of them, they might both be pushed back, but we'll see. We'll keep track. I keep checking the court website almost every day to try and stay on top of things. So thank you so much for watching all of this. Check the links below to see Nancy Grace's podcast and the court website and all the other sources. And before I go, isn't it weird how Jennifer celebrated? Maybe it's not weird, but it's kind of weird how Jennifer celebrated her ex-husband's birthday with Stephan Sterns. I love this TikToker. I'm so glad this TikToker has been able to, save some of these screenshots. I'll link to her below too. But this was December 2nd, 2018. So we know Jen and Sterns met that year, and Sterns is standing right there next to his, bullseye axe that he's thrown. But Jen wrote, "You guys, axe throwing is so much fun. Spent the day celebrating Stephen's 30th birthday. That's her ex-husband's birthday at Epic Axe and Player One. Such a great time. Let's do it again." And so she has some people she's tagging, and Stephan Sterns is one of them. And her ex-husband is obviously there, so maybe she was able to remain friends with her ex-husband. And of course, I don't know how long her ex-husband was in Maddie's life. I'm assuming Maddie was there, maybe not. They're at the Epic Axe Throwing in Orlando. That's another weird thing, kind of, but she was able to celebrate her ex's birthday with Stephan there. Maybe it was a thing of like, oh, I've got a new man now. That's another thing I'm thinking, maybe Jennifer is like seeing the solid relationship, the solid marriage between Tatiana and Tyler all these years, and then Jennifer gets married to this guy, Stephen, but then they get divorced for whatever happened. And maybe she felt like, oh no, I can't keep a relationship. But now Stephan comes into her life in 2018. So is she like, oh yeah, I'll come celebrate my ex Stephen's birthday with you. And look, I'm bringing my new man, Stephan Sterns. Oh, my man, Jesus, I like that. Yeah. I'm bringing my new man with me, kind of to show him off or rub him in your faces, and they kind of look similar with their dark hair and everything. Who knows? But I just had to make that point. Another strange thing I found about Jennifer, which is cool, I guess, if you can get along with your ex, only if you're doing it for a higher good of, oh, maybe Maddie loved Stephen. Maybe she'll get to see him, or who knows? I'm just fascinated with this woman, and again, I'm very obsessed with seeing it through for Maddie to get her justice, and just like Teresina said, so that Maddie's death will not be in vain. Hopefully it can save a whole lot more children who might recognize themselves in a situation and they do make an outcry, or someone else around them makes an outcry, or goes and tells police and rescues these kids. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.